You know how it is when you start doing something, you don't really know what you're doing until you're in the middle of doing it. That's kind of what happened with Writing on the Wall. And, we have a backstory, how we started, and it's already 8 months ago. But, what we're doing and why we're different is that we're not talking about diversity, which is what people endlessly do. We are enacting it. Every place I go, people, there's this obsession we have with thinking that, oh, this piece of news is finally going to get people to see things the way we see them. This is so outrageous that people must change their minds. Not happening. And that's just to say that our attention is on each other. Friends of Israel, the Jewish people, and that's an incredibly diverse group of people, and we have to not think that this is one kind of swath of ideologues. When you don't have one voice, one single voice, then you have the possibility for something to be real. And Ronit and I are curating it, and our voices are there. But that's not what our goal is, to create a network of people who share their voices in a non-polemical way. Like when you go on an airplane or something like that, and it used to be like on El Al or Tower Air, and all of a sudden people who would never talk to each other, it's different now because the people who never talk to each other are now in different parts of the plane. So everybody's having like talking together because it's this almost play space. I'm teaching Shakespeare at the moment. It's almost this play space where you can experiment. And what we do is we don't talk about politics. We're not interested in dialogue, because dialogue talk turns into argument. We're not interested in that now. We're interested in what unifies us. And what unifies us is this thing called the Infinite Book of Judaism. It's Tanakh, meaning the Bible as we have it. It's Torah Shebaal Peh, the Jewish tradition. It's everything that Jews have done for the past 2,500 years. Paintings, dances, everything. Concert halls. Because the Jewish book, the Infinite Book, it is infinite because it allows for so many different manifestations. When people say, oh, the Bible's very dangerous, the Bible's very dangerous when our infinite book is turned to one thing singular, when it's turned into an ideology. Early Christianity is the best example of that. We know in much smaller scale that people try to monopolize the book for themselves in Israel, in other places. That's when it gets dangerous. When you turn something that's infinite into something that is unified, that's bad. So our turning to the infinite book is strangely also a turning to ourselves. And that's the insight that we have to understand now. We may have thought that our freedom existed independent of who we were in the past, and I mean generationally and historically. And it turns out that not only are we determined by the past, and that if you don't acknowledge this, then you will be determined by the past. But the past allows so many opportunities for us to become who we are. We only get the chance once. And that's why reading and writing and midrash almost as a metaphor, taking some midrash as this homiletic category in Judaism. I take an older story and bring it up to date. I take an older story and make it mine. For me, a conductor of an orchestra is a midrashist. He takes the Beethoven score for Beethoven's Fifth, and he brings it into his present. It's extraordinary active translation. Midrash, in a way, is a kind of translation. And for us, going back to the resources that we have, it's an infinite vocabulary. It's why Jews never cancel anything. Maybe we can use it. So, we're inviting people to be part of this, not because it's an affiliation, but because it's an activity. And that's what we have to get back to as the Jewish people. Reading, writing, interpreting, telling our own stories, that's an activity. Judaism is always about activity. It's never about stasis, about one thing. It's not an idea, it's an activity. And that activity is being in the world, and that activity is being in the world as a reader, a writer, a creator. So join us.